The cargo station was quiet that night, only the sound of distant machinery filling the air. The human man, Jace, had just finished unloading his goods when an old alien merchant hurried toward him. The alien's eyes darted left and right as if he was being chased, his hands clutching the small metal cage. Without a single word of explanation, the alien shoved the cage into Jace's arms. "They're yours now," the merchant said quickly, his voice shaky. "No returns. No questions," before Jace could speak. The alien had vanished into the shadows, his footsteps fading fast. Jace looked down at the cage. Confused, inside, two tiny alien girls sat pressed against opposite corners. They were small, barely reaching his knees if they stood, yet they had sharp, pointed ears, long fluffy tails, and glowing golden eyes that locked onto him. The strangest thing was how they stared not just at him, but at each other, as if they were enemies. He crouched and tried to speak softly. "Hey, it's all right. I'm not going to hurt you." But the moment he touched the cage door, they both moved at the same time, not to run away, but to stand directly between him, each girl placing herself as if she owned him. One hissed at the other, her tail puffing up. "He's mine," the other hissed back. "Not a chance," Jace blinked, unsure whether to laugh or be worried. They were so small, yet their eyes carried a kind of intensity he couldn't ignore. And there was something else under the dim station lights. Faint glowing marks wrapped around their necks like strange tattoos, pulsing gently. Before he could think further, a soft chime came from his wrist cum. It was his ship's Hollow, speaking in a calm voice. "Warning, Jace. Those are Filari twins. Rare, dangerous, and extremely territorial when bonded." Jace frowned. "Bonded? What does that even mean?" The AI didn't answer right away, as if it was calculating how much to tell him. Finally, Hilo said, "It means, Captain, if both are here for you, you may be in more trouble than you think." Jay sighed, deciding to figure things out later. He opened the cage door slowly. Both girls stepped out, moving gracefully despite their size. They didn't look scared. If anything, they seemed too confident. Each grabbed one of his hands, clinging tightly while glaring at the other. He could feel their small claws through his gloves, not enough to hurt, but enough to warn him. Back on the ship, Jace tried offering them food. One took the plate and sat right next to him, her tail curling around his arm. The other refused to eat until she could sit on his other side, her head resting on his leg like a silent challenge to her rival. Jace didn't know whether to laugh or panic. He had no idea why these two were fighting for his attention. He just knew it wasn't going to be simple. Hours later, when the ship drifted into hyperspace, Jace thought they might finally settle down. But instead, he woke up in the middle of the night to a strange sound, whispering. He sat up and listened. One of the girls was speaking in a low, sharp tone to the other. "I will never let you have him," she said, her voice like a growl. "Even if it means leaving scars." Jace's stomach tightened. They weren't just being playful. There was something deeper, something dangerous in the way they spoke. The next morning, he found the smaller of the two scratching something into the wall with her claws. It looked almost like writing, but not in any language he knew. When she noticed him watching, she stopped and gave a sweet, innocent smile. The other girl appeared moments later, slipping between them and holding his arm. Her glowing neck mark pulsed brighter for a second before fading again. Halo spoke in his ear quietly. "Captain, if you don't learn why they're here, this could end very badly." Jace rubbed the back of his neck, feeling the weight of the situation. He didn't know what these Filari twins wanted. He didn't know why they were given to him. But he knew one thing for sure. Whatever this was, it had already begun. And it was only a matter of time before their strange rivalry pulled him into something far more dangerous than he could imagine. The next morning, Jace woke up to the smell of something sweet in the air. When he opened his eyes, the taller of the two alien girls was standing by his bed, holding a steaming cup of warm milk. Her golden eyes softened when she saw him awake. "Drink," she said, almost like an order. Before Jace could take it, The other girl appeared, stepping in front of him with a plate of sliced fruit. "She doesn't know what you like." The smaller one said sharply, "Eat this instead." Jay sighed, sitting up slowly. It was too early for arguments, but they were already glaring at each other like two warriors before a duel. He took both the milk and the fruit, trying to keep the peace. But the moment he tasted the milk, the smaller girl snatched it away and hissed, "You don't know what she put in that." The taller one growled back, "And you don't know what's in your fruit." Jace set both aside before they could throw them at each other. His ship's AI halo chimed in from the wall speaker. "Captain, I recommend separating them before someone loses an eye," Jace muttered. "Yeah, I'm starting to think I need a babysitter." He tried to give them different tasks to keep them apart, one in the kitchen, the other in the engine bay, but no matter where he sent them, they found excuses to be near him. If he went to the cockpit, both girls would be there within minutes, each trying to sit closer to him. One would accidentally brush her tail against his arm, while the other would lean on his shoulder as if daring the first to react. At first, it was almost funny, but then Jace noticed something strange. Whenever one of them touched him, the glowing mark on her neck would pulse faintly, like a heartbeat. And when the other saw it, she would immediately find an excuse to touch him too, making her mark pulse in return. It was like a silent battle he couldn't stop. Later that day, Jace went to check the cargo hold. That's when he found something unsettling. Deep scratch marks ran along the side of the small escape pod. Fresh marks, too clean to be old. When he ran his fingers over them, he realized someone had been trying to force the door closed hard enough to leave dents. His stomach twisted. The escape pod was small, only enough room for one passenger. If someone had locked it, they could have trapped the other girl inside. He didn't want to believe it, but the thought wouldn't leave his mind. That evening, when they were sitting in the mess hall, Jace decided to test something. He casually said, "You know, maybe I should just send one of you back to where you came from." Both girls froze, their eyes snapping to him. The smaller one's ears flattened as she hissed, "You wouldn't dare." The taller one's tail lashed behind her as she said, "You need me." "She's useless." Jace leaned back, pretending to be calm inside though. He felt a rising tension. This wasn't just jealousy. Something deeper was driving them. Something he didn't understand. Hallow spoke quietly through his earpiece. "Captain, I've been reviewing records on the Filari species. Their bonding instinct is more intense than I thought," Jace whispered. "How bad are we talking?" The AI paused. "If two bond to the same person, they will not stop fighting until only one remains. Unless the chosen one makes a decision." Jace's chest tightened, so that was it. This wasn't just a game to them. This was survival, at least in their minds. But why him? Why would they both choose a stranger? That night, Jace couldn't sleep. Every sound from the hallway made him think of claws scratching or doors locking. When he finally got up to check, he saw both girls awake, sitting at opposite ends of the corridor. Their eyes were locked on each other, tails twitching. Neither moved when he approached, but as soon as he stepped between them, they both reached for him, holding onto his arms like he was the only solid thing in the galaxy. He could feel their small hands trembling. It wasn't fear, it was something stronger. Possession. Jace's thoughts raced. If Hilo was right, then every moment he didn't choose was making things worse. But how could he choose between two lives that had been forced into his hands without warning? The ship drifted through hyperspace, quiet except for the soft hum of the engines. Jace sat in the cockpit, looking out at the stars. He felt the weight of both girls' stares from behind him. No words, no movement, just the silent pressure of two hearts waiting for his answer. He didn't know it yet, but this was only the beginning, and soon, their rivalry would push all three of them into danger. None of them could escape. The days passed slowly. Jace found himself moving carefully through his own ship, as if every step could trigger another clash between the two alien girls. It wasn't just the arguments anymore. There was a tension in the air, thick and sharp. It felt like something was building, waiting for the right moment to break. One evening, while checking the navigation logs, Jace noticed a faint glow in the cockpit's reflection. He turned his head and saw the smaller girl leaning against the doorframe, watching him. Her golden eyes seemed softer than usual, but there was still something unreadable in them. She stepped forward slowly and pointed to the bandage on his forearm. "You're hurt," she said, her voice quiet, almost concerned. Before he could answer, she took his arm in her small hands and leaned down. Her tongue brushed over the wound, and instantly the cut began to close. Jace pulled back in surprise. "What are you?" But she only smiled faintly. "Now she can't mark you there." Those words made his stomach drop. He didn't understand them, but they carried a warning. Before he could ask more, the taller girl appeared in the doorway, her eyes narrowing. At the sight, her tail lashed violently as she stepped forward. "Get away from him." The smaller girl smirked, wiping her lips. Too late. The tension was like a knife in the air. Jace stood quickly, stepping between them before things got physical. "Enough," he said firmly. "I'm not going to watch you tear each other apart." But they only stared at each other over his shoulder, their glowing neck marks pulsing in rhythm like two warning signals. Later that night, Jace couldn't sleep. Something about what the smaller girl had said kept echoing in his head. "Now she can't mark you there." What did that even mean? He decided to check the ship's database, searching for anything about the Falari species. The AI, "Hello," responded in its calm tone. Falari bonding rituals involve physical markings, usually activated by touch, sometimes by saliva or blood. Jace frowned. And if two try to bond with the same person? Halo hesitated before answering. "It's dangerous, Captain. Their instincts override logic. A duel, physical or otherwise, is inevitable." Jace leaned back in his chair, rubbing his face. He was stuck in the middle of something primal. And if Halo was right, there might not be a way out without choosing. As he returned to his quarters, he noticed the lights in the hallway flickering. The smaller girl's door was slightly open, and a faint glow spilled out. Curious, Jace stepped closer, peeking inside. She was sitting cross-legged on the floor, claws out, carving strange symbols into the metal panel. They weren't random scratches, they looked like a kind of script, curved and sharp, glowing faintly. In the dark, she whispered something under her breath in a language he didn't know. It sounded like a chant, each word carrying a strange weight. Before he could speak, a shadow moved behind him. The taller girl stood in the hallway, her voice low and cold. "Don't watch her." Jace turned, startled. "Why? What is she doing?" The taller one's eyes stayed fixed on the smaller girl. "Trying to steal you." That night, the ship felt different. Every corridor seemed darker, every sound louder. Jace woke to the faint scrape of claws again. Following the sound, he found himself in the cargo bay. There, near the escape pod, were fresh claw marks deeper than before. This time, the scratches formed a clear symbol, the same as the ones in the smaller girl's room. Jace crouched to touch it, but the moment his fingers brushed the mark, a flash of light burned through his vision. Images hit his mind: two Falari standing under a blood-red sky, claws locked, their bodies glowing with the same marks. A voice whispered in his head, "Only one survives the bond." He stumbled back, his breathing fast. The taller girl was suddenly behind him, her expression unreadable. "Don't let her touch you again," she said softly, almost pleading, before he could reply. The smaller girl appeared from the shadows. She moved closer, her tail swaying slowly, her voice calm. "She's lying. She wants you for herself." Jace looked between them. The air was thick with something unseen. It wasn't just rivalry, it was war, and he was the prize. A Chelo's voice broke the silence through the overhead speaker. "Captain, I recommend locking separate quarters for both of them immediately." But Jace didn't answer. His eyes were fixed on the two glowing marks on their necks. Both pulsed faintly. And for the first time, he noticed something new. They pulsed in sync when they looked at him, not at each other. A chill ran through him. Whatever was happening, it was binding him to both of them at once. And that was something their instincts might never forgive, asterisk. The hum of the ship's engines filled the air as Jace sat in the cockpit. His eyes were fixed on the stars outside, but his mind was trapped between the two small alien girls who refused to let go of him. Every hour seemed to pull them closer to the point of no return. Hilo had warned him if he didn't make a choice soon, things could end violently, but that choice was taken from his hands sooner than he expected. A sudden alarm blared through. "The ship, unidentified vessel approaching," Hilo announced. "Shields at 40%. Jace's hands flew over the controls, switching to defensive mode. Through the viewing glass, a dark, jagged ship emerged from the shadows of space, its lights glowing red like eyes in the dark. Before Jace could hail them, the cum crackled with a deep alien voice. "We've tracked the Falari twins to your vessel, human," the voice said. "Hand them over, and we may let you live." The taller girl appeared at his side instantly, claws out, her tail bristling. "They'll kill you," she said, her voice low. "Don't talk to them." The smaller girl rushed in from the hall, gripping his arm. "Don't listen to her. Give her to them, and we'll be safe." Jace's jaw tightened. No one's getting handed over. He pushed the ship into evasive maneuvers, but the enemy vessel fired a shot that shook the entire cabin. Sparks rained from the ceiling, and Halo's voice cut in sharply. "Boarding clamps detected. They're pulling us in." The taller girl's ears twitched, her gaze shifting toward the rear hatch. "They'll come through the cargo bay," she said, already moving. The smaller girl followed, but only after throwing a sharp glare at her rival. Jace grabbed his blaster and ran after them. The cargo bay lights flickered as the sound of metal cutting filled the air. A glowing red line burned across the hatch door. Someone was forcing it open. The two girls crouched low, their bodies tense, their golden eyes locked on the breach. Jace positioned himself between them. Weapon ready, with a loud hiss, the hatch fell inward, and 3 armored aliens stepped through, their weapons raised. They were taller than Jace, with heavy breathing masks and claws that scraped against the deck. The leader pointed at the girls. "Take them alive." Before Jace could react, the taller girl lunged, moving faster than his eyes could follow. Her claws slashed across the leader's chest, sparks flying from his armor. The smaller girl darted to the side, springing onto another attacker's back and biting down hard on his neck. The alien roared, stumbling backward into a stack of cargo crates. Jace fired at the third invader, hitting him in the leg and sending him crashing to the floor. The fight was short but brutal. Within moments, all 3 attackers were down. The taller girl stood over the leader, her chest rising and falling, her claws dripping with blood. The smaller girl crouched nearby, panting, her tail flicking side to side. For a brief second, they looked at each other, not with hate, but with something else. A silent acknowledgement. They had fought together to protect the same thing. But the moment passed quickly. The taller girl wiped her claws and stepped closer to Jace. "I told you I'm the one who can protect you." The smaller girl moved in on his other side. "If I hadn't been here, you'd be dead already." Jace's head was spinning. The enemy ship was still out there. More might come, and yet these two were still fighting over him. Halo's voice echoed in the cargo bay. "Captain, I suggest we leave immediately. Their ship is powering weapons again." Jace didn't hesitate. He ran to the cockpit. The girls right behind him. As he powered up the engines, he caught their reflections in the glass. One was standing with her hand on his shoulder, the other gripping his arm. Both were glaring at each other, and in that moment, Jace realized something. They weren't just fighting for survival, they were fighting for him. The ship jumped to hyperspace, leaving the enemy far behind. The danger was over for now. But Jace knew he couldn't avoid it forever. That night, the ship was silent, except for the faint hum of the engines. The girls stayed in the same room, but on opposite sides. They didn't speak. They didn't need to. Every glance they exchanged was heavy with meaning. When Jace finally confronted them, he stood in the doorway and said, "I don't know why you were given to me." I don't know what this bond is, but I can't let this keep going." The taller girl looked away, her voice quiet. "Then choose." The smaller one's golden eyes met his without blinking. "Yes." "Choose." Jace's chest tightened. He wasn't ready to choose, but as he looked at them, he realized something that made his pulse quicken. If he didn't, one of them might force the decision for him. The ship drifted through hyperspace, the stars stretching into long streams outside the viewing glass. Jace sat in the cockpit, staring at the navigation display. Halo's calm voice cut through the silence. "Captain, the main fuel stabilizer is failing. We will need to land for repairs within 12 hours. Jace's eyes narrowed. "Where's the closest safe port?" The eye hesitated for a fraction of a second. "There are no safe ports in this sector. The nearest habitable planet is classified as high risk, but it is our only option." A red warning flashed on the display, a planet with dark swirling clouds, marked with hazard icons. The atmosphere was unstable, storms covered most of the surface. Still, they had no choice. Jace set a course. The two small alien girls entered the cockpit as the planet grew larger on the screen. The taller one stood with her arms crossed, tail swaying slowly. "This place smells wrong." The smaller one's ears twitched. "Good. Maybe she'd get lost in the storm." Jace didn't even turn to look at them. "Both of you stay close when we land." "I mean it." The landing was rough. Lightning danced across the sky. The wind howled against the hull. Dust and grit scraped against the cockpit glass as the ship settled onto the rocky surface. The air outside shimmered with static energy. Every breath here would sting. They all suited up before stepping out. The wind was so strong it almost knocked the smaller girl over. Jace grabbed her hand without thinking, steadying her. The taller girl's golden eyes narrowed at the sight, but she said nothing, not yet. They walked toward a rocky ridge where Halo's scanners had detected shelter. The ground was uneven, sharp stones jutting up like teeth. Strange shapes moved in the distance, large and slow, disappearing into the dust clouds. The girls kept close, their heads turning at every distant sound. Inside the ridge, they found a shallow cave. It was dark but shielded from the worst of the wind. Jace set down his tools and began working on the damaged stabilizer module. The girls lingered near the entrance, their ears twitching as if listening to something far away. Then came the first roar. It was deep and rumbling, like the earth itself was growling. The smaller girl's tail puffed up instantly. "They've smelled us," she whispered. The taller one's claws slid out with a metallic sound. "Then we'll make them regret it." Jace looked up from his work. "What's coming?" Neither answered, but a moment later, shapes began to appear through the dust massive. Four-legged beasts with glowing blue eyes and jaws lined with too many teeth. They circled slowly, their movements almost lazy, as if they already knew they had trapped their prey. The first beast lunged toward the cave entrance. The taller girl was already moving, slashing across its face and forcing it back. Another beast tried to come in from the side, but the smaller girl leapt onto its back, clawing and biting until it stumbled away. Jace grabbed his blaster, firing at anything that came too close. The cave echoed with roars, the air thick with dust and the scent of blood. For the first time since they met, the girls weren't fighting each other. They moved together without words, one distracting, the other striking from behind when a beast charged straight for Jace. Both girls leapt in front of him at the same time. The taller one took the hit on her side. The smaller one slashed at its throat until it collapsed. Jace's heart pounded as the last of the beasts limped away into the storm. The taller girl was breathing hard, her shoulder bleeding. The smaller girl's claws dripped blue blood, her ears still twitching. He looked at them both. They were injured, exhausted, but alive, and they had protected him together, even if only for a moment. As he bandaged their wounds inside the cave, neither spoke. But when his hands brushed over the glowing marks on their necks, both pulsed faintly. He remembered Halo's warning: two bonds could not last. Yet here they were, fighting side by side. When the storm outside began to calm, Jace finally spoke. "This can't go on," he said quietly. "You're going to kill each other if I don't choose." The taller girl's eyes locked on his. "Then choose now." The smaller girl leaned closer. "Yes." Before the next storm, the wind howled again outside the cave. Jace realized it wasn't just the weather threatening them anymore. It was the choice he was about to make, and whatever he decided, there would be no turning back. Asterisk. The storm. Outside the cave raged on, lightning flashing across the sky like veins of fire. Inside, the air was heavy with silence. Jace sat near the small heater, watching the two alien girls from the corner of his eye. They were resting against opposite walls, but neither took their gaze off him for long. Achelo's voice came through his wrist, calm in a low tone. "Captain, I have finished the deep scan on their species." Jace adjusted the cum so the girls couldn't hear. "Tell me, the Falari bond is absolute," Hilo explained. "It is not just emotional, it is biological. When they mark someone, that person's life becomes linked to theirs. If the bond completes, their hearts beat in rhythm. If one dies, the bonded one follows within hours." Jace's chest tightened. He had assumed their rivalry was only about instinct, about wanting to win. But now he understood this was life or death for them. And worse, both were already in the early stages of bonding with him. "Hello," he whispered. "What happens if two Falari bond to the same person?" The AI hesitated. "The bonds will fight each other inside the human's body. It will cause physical and mental collapse in all three. Until one bond breaks." Jace rubbed his forehead. "And how does a bond break?" There was a pause before the AI answered. "One of them dies. Or the human chooses one, severing the other." The weight of it settled on him like a stone. He wasn't just deciding between two lives, he was deciding who would live. The taller girl stirred, opening her golden eyes. Her voice was calm, but edged with something sharp. "You've been whispering to your machine again." Jace didn't answer, but the smaller girl tilted her head, smirking. "She's worried you'll learn the truth before she can finish marking you." The taller one's tail flicked. "And you're not?" The smaller girl's smile faded. "At least I won't let him die with the wrong one." Jace stood, his voice firm. "Enough." They both fell silent, but their eyes stayed locked on each other. He walked to the center of the cave, looking. Between them, "You've both been hiding things from me," he said. "I know what bonding means now. I know what happens if I don't choose." The smaller girl's ears flattened slightly. "Then choose me." The taller one stepped forward. "No, choose me, and we'll both live. Choose her, and you'll regret it." Jace felt the heat of their words, the storm outside echoing the storm inside his head. "I can't choose while we're trapped in this cave," he said finally. "We get back to the ship, we leave this planet, then I'll decide." The hours dragged on, the storm finally easing. When they stepped outside, the air was still heavy, but the wind had died down. They moved quickly toward the ship, the jagged rocks crunching under their boots. But halfway there, a deep rumble came from the ridge behind them. From the dust emerged a single massive beast bigger than the ones before, its hide covered in scars, its glowing blue eyes fixed on them. The girls moved instantly, one on each side of Jace. The beast charged, its claws tearing into the ground. The taller girl leapt to meet it head-on, slashing at its face. The smaller one darted to its side, trying to cut its legs. But this beast was smarter. It twisted its body, knocking the smaller girl into the rocks. Jace ran toward her, firing his blaster to keep the beast back. The taller girl screamed in rage and attacked again, forcing the creature away long enough for Jace to pull the smaller one up. Her breathing was ragged, blood trickling from her side. The beast lunged again, jaws wide. Without hesitation, both girls jumped in front of Jace, taking the hit together. The sound of claws scraping armor and teeth snapping filled the air. Jace fired until the creature roared and stumbled back, finally retreating into The dust, they made it to the ship, but the sight of both girls injured tore at Jace's chest. He carried them inside, setting them down on the medbay beds as he treated their wounds. The glowing marks on their necks pulsed faintly with each touch. For the first time, their eyes met without hate. There was no fight in them, now only exhaustion. Jace sat between them, looking from one to the other. "Hello was right," he said quietly. "If I don't choose, both of you will die." Neither spoke. But after a long moment, the taller girl said, "Then choose her if it means you live." The smaller girl's eyes widened. "No. Choose her if it means you're safe." Jace's breath caught. Even now, with their lives on the line, they were trying to put him first. He realized the choice he made wouldn't just decide who stayed, it would change all of them forever. Ship lifted off from the storm planet. The stars stretched once more into hyperspace. Jace sat in the cockpit, both girls resting in the chairs beside him. Their glowing marks pulsed softly, almost in sync. It was a sign that time was running out. The decision could not wait much longer, and the moment he made it, there would be no going back. The ship glided silently through hyperspace. The cockpit was dim, the glow from the navigation screens casting soft light over Jace and the two small alien girls beside him. Neither of them spoke. Their golden eyes were half-lidded with exhaustion. But they never stopped watching him. The marks on their necks pulsed faintly slower than before, but still in rhythm with his heartbeat. Hilo's voice broke the silence. "Captain, the bonds are now 78% complete. Within the next few hours, your body will begin rejecting one of them." Jace's hands tightened on the controls. He had run out of time if he didn't make a choice. The bonds would fight inside him until all three of them were gone. He stood and faced them. "I can't keep avoiding this," he said quietly. "If I don't choose, we all die." The taller girl leaned forward, her voice steady but heavy. "Then choose me. I will protect you, always." The smaller girl's eyes glistened, her voice softer. "Choose me, and I will never leave you." Jace's chest felt like it was being crushed. He thought of the way they had fought for him, the way they had bled for him. He thought of the moment on the storm planet when they both had jumped in front of him without hesitation. He couldn't forget that. "I can't choose one of you to die," he said finally, shaking his head. "I won't." The taller girl frowned. "You must." The smaller one's tail twitched. "It's the only way." But Jace stepped forward, placing one hand gently on each of their heads. "What if I choose both?" he asked, his voice firm. Both girls stared at him as if he had spoken something impossible. "That's not how it works," the taller one said slowly. "The bond can't share," the smaller one added, her tone unsure. Jace closed his eyes, feeling the warmth of their heads beneath his hands. "Then we'll make it work," he said, the marks on their necks began to glow brighter. At first, they pulsed separately, one quick, one slow, but then, slowly, they matched. The light grew stronger until it lit the entire cockpit in gold. Hilo's voice sounded strangely tense. "Captain, this is unprecedented. I have no record of two Falari bonds merging with a single human host." The glow intensified until Jace could barely see. He felt heat spreading through his body, but it wasn't pain. It was like a wave of energy connecting the three of them. Memories flashed in his mind, memories that weren't his. Running through alien forests, hunting beneath twin moons, curling up in nests of soft fur. He felt their fear, their pride, their stubborn love for him. When the light finally faded, Jace opened his eyes. The marks on their necks had changed. Instead of two separate patterns, both now shared the same swirling design, a symbol that looked like it had been made from two halves joining together. The taller girl touched her neck, her eyes wide. "It doesn't hurt anymore." The smaller girl mirrored her. I don't feel the need to fight." Hilo's voice returned, calmer now. "Captain, it appears you have formed a new type of bond, one that links all three of you equally. This has never been documented." Jace smiled faintly. "Good," he said. Because now no one has to die. The days that followed were different. The tension that had once filled every room was gone. The girls still argued sometimes about who made better tea, or who got the seat closer to him, but there was no sharpness in their words anymore. Instead, they moved like a team, watching each other's backs the same way they watched his. One evening, as the three of them sat in the cargo bay, watching the stars through the open hatch, the smaller girl leaned against his shoulder. "You changed the bond," she said softly, almost in disbelief. The taller girl sat on his other side, her tail curling around his arm. "You broke our rules." Jace chuckled. "I didn't break them. I made new ones." The smaller girl's eyes glowed faintly in the starlight. "What if the others find out?" Jace looked out at the endless space beyond. "Then they'll know humans don't always follow the script," he said, his voice steady. "Sometimes we write our own ending." Weeks later, word of their strange merged bond began to spread through the trade routes. Some aliens were curious, some were afraid, but Jace didn't care. His ship was no longer just his. It was theirs. Together, they had gone from rivals ready to tear each other apart to something entirely new, something no one else in the galaxy had ever seen. And as the stars passed by outside the hull, Jace knew one thing for certain. He had not just made a choice. He had changed the fate of the Filari forever.